Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Today we're going to talk about something very interesting. And it has to do with issues of life. Embracing life's contradictions, the path to wisdom and fulfillment. Listen, the essence of this title basically will reflect the essence of navigating what we call paradoxes in various aspects of life and finding meaning and growth within them. So, my friends, allow me to open this discussion with a quote that actually escapulates the intricate dance of paradoxes in our lives. In the pursuit of control, we sometimes find ourselves losing the very essence of what we seek to gain. These words resonate as we embark on a journey through the intricate tapestry of what we call the Giffen paradox, and the haunting echoes of they make a desert and call it peace, and the complex interplay of emotions when pleasure emerges from someone else's pain. Listen, I will delve into the heart of these paradoxes, seeking to unravel their layers, understanding their consequences, and perhaps to discover the hidden wisdom they hold. And these issues touch the core of our human experiences, whether in economic choices, societal narratives, or in the intricate threads of our own relationships. So, my friends, join me as I navigate this tapestry of contradictions in terms of exploring how, in the twists and the turns of life, we find ourselves facing what we call unexpected outcomes, lessons, and sometimes even victories in the face of what we may seem to see like defeat. And that is what I would like to comprehend. Now, sometimes deriving pleasure or satisfaction from someone else's failure or misfortune is often described as Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude is a German term that translates into harm or joy or taking pleasure in the suffering of others. It's a complex psychological and even social phenomenon, and is considered as a negative or even more a questionable emotion because it involves finding enjoyment in other pain or other people's pains or failures. Now, let's explore the idea of what we call winning by losing. In the context of Schadenfreude, or deriving pleasure from someone else's failure or misfortune, in some situations, listen, individuals might mistakenly believe that they are winning when they witness others experiencing failures or misfortunes. They may derive what we call temporary satisfaction from the idea that someone they perceive as a rival or competitor is actually facing difficulties. However, it is essential to consider the long-term consequences of such an attitude. So listen, while Schadenfreude may provide a fleeting sense of satisfaction, it is often reflects negativity on a person's character and relationship, and it can lead to lack of empathy, strained social connection, and even moral or ethical concerns. On the other hand, winning by losing might involve recognizing the harm or negativity in deriving pleasure from someone else's failure and choosing a more empathetic and compassionate approach by, for example, reframing one's perspective and focusing on constructive competition or collaboration. Individuals can actually foster more healthier and more positive relationship and outcomes in the long run. So, my friends, in the context of winning by losing, we could actually mean recognizing the negative implications of Schadenfreude and choosing a path that leads to a more meaningful and positive interactions with others, ultimately resulting into the personal growth and stronger relationships. Please understand, I'm going to argue for you what we call a Giffen paradox. Now, Giffen paradox is indeed recognized fundamentally as an economic concept named after a guy called Sir Robert Giffen. It basically describes a situation where an increase in the price of a necessity, inferior good, leads to an increase in its demand. So this increasingly contradicts the basic law of demand, which states that as the price of a good increases, the quantity demanded decreases. Now, in the context of the Giffen paradox, in terms of the income effect, the reduction in terms of the real income due to the price increase outweighs the substitution effect. In other words, people switching to a cheaper alternative. So as a result, people may buy more of the inferior good at a higher price because they can no longer afford the more expensive alternatives. I'm going to knit that in what we're trying to understand today. Now, obviously, given goods are relatively rare and often associated with staple foods, say like bread or rice in specific historical context. It's therefore an interesting exception to the traditional demand theory. Now, the concept of winning by losing is not directly related to the Giffen paradox in terms of economics. Winning by losing typically refers to situations in which, paradoxically, deliberately losing or sacrificing something can lead to greater overall gain or victory. It's often used in various contexts such as sports, games, or even strategic decision making. And that is where we are going. I'm trying to lay a background for our discussion. On the other hand, Giffen paradox is a specific economic phenomenon related to the demand for inferior goods in certain circumstances as explained earlier. So listen, while both concepts involve paradoxical outcomes, they are not inherently connected. So winning by losing is the broader idea that can apply to various scenarios beyond economics, whereas Giffen paradox is a specific economic observation. I'm just laying a background so that we can understand where we're coming from. And what I'm going to talk about today has everything to do with you and me and us. So listen, from a philosophical perspective, one could draw a loose connection between Giffen paradox and the concept of winning by losing in terms of unexpected or counterintuitive outcomes they both represent. Okay? Now, in Giffen paradox, there is a counterintuitive route where an increase in the price, as I said, of an inferior good leads to an increase in its demand. This paradox challenges, as I said, conventional economic expectations. So in the concept again of winning by losing, there is also an element of defying conventional wisdom or expectation. It basically implies that sometimes strategically choosing to lose in the short term can actually lead to a greater overall win as an advantage in the long run. And that's what I'm talking about. You will comprehend as I go on. Now, both concepts can actually be seen as examples of situations where apparent losses or counterintuitive actions can actually lead to unexpected gains or outcomes, challenging conventional thinking and highlighting the complexity of decision making and human behavior. However, it is essential, my friends, to recognize that there are still distinct concepts. So one rooted in economics and the other in decision-making strategy. And their philosophical connection is a matter of interpretation and analogy. That's what I would like to comprehend. Now, let us explore how the concept of counterintuitive outcomes of winning by losing might actually apply to different life situations. Number one, if you're looking at it in the concept of what they call health and fitness, sometimes the pain and the discomfort of exercising or even adapting a healthier lifestyle can initially feel like losing or sacrificing comfort. However, in the long run, these choices can lead to better health, increased energy, and an overall win in terms of well-being. Winning by what? By losing. How about in terms of relationships? In terms of ending a difficult or perhaps a toxic relationship may initially involve emotional pain and headache, seeming like a loss. But in the long run, it can lead to personal growth, self-discovery, and the possibility of healthier and even more fulfilling relationships. How about if you argue it in terms of what we call education? Yeah, the argument in terms of the stress and the hard work that is required to excel in academics may actually feel like a loss of leisure time perhaps, or relaxation in the short term. However, it can result in gaining knowledge, skills, and future opportunities that are significant in terms of a win, in terms of personal and career development. So do you comprehend winning by losing? Some of you are going through challenges and troubles, and I'm telling you sometimes it's important to win by losing. How about in terms of mental health? Seeking therapy or counseling may involve confronting painful emotions and even memories which can feel like a loss and comfort. However, this process can lead to improved mental well-being in terms of resilience as a sense of winning in the ability to cope with life challenges. How about aspects that have to do with breaking stigmas? Speaking about personal experiences related to stigmatized issues, for example, mental health or addiction or discrimination may actually initially involve facing societal judgments or stigma. So over time, however, it can lead to raising questions of awareness, reducing stigma, for example, and promoting what they call positive change, which is actually a collective win. Okay? How about aspects in terms of entrepreneurship? Starting a business often, comes with financial risks and even uncertainties that can feel like, losing money or stability initially. But successful entrepreneurship can actually lead to financial independence and even professional satisfaction, ultimately resulting into a win. So listen, these examples illustrate how life situations can actually involve short-term sacrifices, challenges or pain which might appear as losing. However, by persevering through these challenges and making what they call counterintuitive decisions, individuals can often achieve long-term gains, personal growth, and positive outcomes, thus exemplifying the idea of winning by losing in various aspects. I'm talking about a given paradox. In life, we have to comprehend and understand that yes, I have accepted, I have lost, but in the long run, you may actually win. Yeah? And that's what I'm talking about. Many of us go through situations and we look like we have lost it. We have lost it completely, without knowing that in the short run, it may appear so, but in the longer run, we may actually be winners. I'll give another example in terms of personal development. Self-improvement efforts often require stepping out of one's comfort zone, which can initially feel like a loss in terms of familiarity and security. However, personal development leads to increased self-confidence, skills, and even a sense of accomplishment, ultimately resulting again into a win. Yeah? I just talked about financial investment. Making strategic financial investment might actually involve the risk of losing money in the short run. However, over time, wise investment can actually yield significant returns and financial security, representing a win. So, not every challenge, not every loss, not every disappointment should be looked at it in terms of, man, my life is totally ended. We go through it. The tricky one, parenting, for example. Parenthood can bring sleepless nights, stress, and a sense of personal sacrifice. However, the love and the joy and the fulfillment that come from raising children are often seen as a long-term win over time. That's one of my dicey ones, which I'm desperately praying that the Lord will have mercy. How about social activism? In terms of advocating for social change, can actually be emotional draining in terms of, it may actually involve facing resistance or backlash, yet it can lead to progress in terms of equality, in terms of justice, making it a collective win. How about aspects that have to do with creative pursuits? You know, pursuing creative passions like writing, art, or even music can involve uncertainty and even periods of self-doubt. Ask me about the books that you write, the backlashes that come from left, right, and center, from even our loved ones, people who are supposed to be really, really watching for us, but they pull us down, they draw us down, they hit us left, right, and center, they stone us. You know, they send out outrageous statements just because of, I don't know, but sometimes in the long run we win. How about overcoming addiction? Breaking from addiction can be challenging in terms of a journey filled with struggles and relapses. However, achieving sobriety and gaining control of one's life is significant as a win for personal health and well-being. So, my friends, each of these situations, yeah, the initial hardship or even the perceived losses can lead to long-term gains, personal growth, and a sense of achievement. And they actually highlight the idea that sometimes taking risks or enduring challenges or making counterintuitive decisions can actually ultimately result into winning and even achieving positive outcomes in the various aspects of life. Even the things that we do, even as I speak to you on YouTube, it's a hassle. You do not know how much pain, how much labor, how much sleepless nights, how much sweat, blood, and tears we put into these things just to make sure that we speak and lend a shoulder. Yeah? How about in aspects of grief and loss? Coping with the loss of a loved one is emotionally painful as an experience. However, it can have, you know, it can lead to personal growth, greater empathy, and even a deeper appreciation of life in terms of relationship. How about if you're arguing in terms of what they call career changes? Leaving, you know, a stable job to pursue perhaps a newer career path can actually be unsettling and financially challenging in the short run. It may lead to increased job satisfaction in the long run. It may lead to personal fulfillment and even long-term successes. I have changed jobs. I have left certain jobs with tears, but sometimes I keep walking and keep looking up and saying, maybe there's a path. Maybe I can look back and say, should I be given the opportunity to go back? I may not go back because God has charted a way. How about travel and even adventure? Venturing into what they call unfamiliar, you know, or even risky travel experiences can also bring discomfort and even anxiety. It often results in personal enrichment, but if you took it on the other side, it brings memorable experiences that may be considered in terms of a win. How about rejection and resilience? Yeah? Facing rejection in the areas, for example, like job applications, relationships. How about in terms of creative endeavors that can be disheartening? Ask me, I've been rejected even from the forums where I feel like I should be wrong. You know, I've been rejected by those that I gave water or food. It can be depressing, but sometimes in the long run you look at it that way. You can look at it in terms of the other side of the coin, the other side of the greenery, of the fence may be greener than this side. So I comprehend and understand the pain and the pressures that we go through even as we try to charter or even as we try to live our lives as individuals. How about in terms of conflict resolution? Addressing conflicts in relationships or even communities can actually be uncomfortable and may even involve difficult conversations. However, resolving conflicts can lead to improved relationships and even understanding peace. I have a friend who's going through certain challenges, marital challenges, and I can empathize. I can relate to what they're going through. I told him, call me 24/7 because I know what you're going through. I have gone through that path, so I know the pain. I know what it means when someone stands in for you. Yeah? How about starting anew, beginning anew? Yeah, maybe in a new city, a new country, or a new what? A new relationship, a new course. It can be extremely challenging. You know, but the experience in terms of what you go through may give you growth in terms of broadness to excel and to become a much better individual. I'm talking about winning by winning. So, in spite of the fact that some situations may involve pain, discomfort, or sacrifices in terms of the short run, nevertheless, they may lead to what they call valuable lessons in terms of personal involvement, in terms of long-term gains, of wins that contribute to a richer and even a more fulfilling life. Sometimes you may not comprehend it, but at a later stage. I'm going through one and people are telling me, wait, you will see it in the longer run. Yeah? Now, we're going to consider some situations in terms of understanding exactly what we're talking about. And I'm going to give you examples of, for example, a play out of what they call the entrepreneurship dilemma, for example. Just imagine, for example, yeah? Let's go together. Imagine an aspiring entrepreneur who has actually, groundbreaking business idea but faces a difficult decision, and they have the opportunity to invest a significant portion of their savings into launching, their startup business. But doing so would actually mean accepting a substantial financial loss in the short term. This initial loss would result, in the cost of product development, marketing, and even, operational expenses. I think it was Elon Musk. I had Elon Musk was saying that, the deeper the investment or the greater the risk, the greater the returns. So at first glance, the decision seems like significant loss. On the other hand, in terms of their money, in terms of their financial security, they might even question whether it is even worth as a risk. However, they decide to take, the plunge and invest, into this business idea. Listen, over perhaps the next few years, this entrepreneur faces numerous challenges, including financial setbacks, marketing competitions, long-term hours of hard work. There are even moments when they can actually doubt the decisions and feel like they are losing it out. Ask any rich guy today, whether it's Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or even Elon Musk or even Donald Trump. Everybody who has actually invested in these issues will tell you that they've had their fingers burnt. Yeah. So, however, as time passes, the interior business gains traction, and their innovation products may capture market attention and customer demands in terms of growing steadily. So this initial loss in terms of their saving begins to play off as the business becomes even more profitable. Yeah. Fast forward several years, the entrepreneurship starts up, a thriving company, generating significant revenue and even expanding globally. Some of the people who are successful today started their entrepreneurial businesses, I don't know how many times, failing. There's a guy who said, until you do it 101 times, you don't have to give up. Last week or even this week, I've been at the verge of giving up. I am the greatest. Let me first finish before I tell you my personal story. So the entrepreneurship knowingly accepts the short-term financial loss by investing in their startup, but ultimately leading into a long-term win, as I said. So their willingness to risk and endure initial setbacks and persistence through challenges obviously resulted into the creation of what they call successful and even prosperous businesses. So these cases, as I said, illustrate certain situations embracing a loss or sacrifice in the present, even if it seems daunting or unknowing at a time, that can pave the way for the future in terms of victories, in terms of achievement, in terms of personal growth. It exemplifies the concept of winning by losing in the context of entrepreneurship and decision making. Ask me, even as we are, we pride ourselves humbly in the fact that we have authored about 50 books, groundbreaking law books, the pain that we go through left, right, and center, the battles that we go through left, right, and center, even rightly or wrongly. Sometimes, I don't know how many times we felt like giving up, had it not been for the Lord anyway, to say that. I'll give another complex situation in terms of playing out the scenario. The complexities of love, for example. Imagine a person, for example, who is in deep love with someone, and they believe to be their soulmate, right? Like choose the word soulmate. They have invested their time, their heart, their energy into this relationship, hoping for a lifetime of happiness together. However, they encounter a painful and unexpected breakup. Ask me, my friend, this separation feels like a significant loss emotionally, leading to a heartache, sadness, and even a sense of emptiness, and sometimes suicidal implications. Goodness me, you don't want to be there, but I will understand if you're there, and I will say, my brother, my sister, don't give up. So in the aftermath of this breakup, the person initially struggles with emotions, turmoils, and may even question whether they actually made a mistake in investing so much in this relationship. They might even feel like they have lost their chance in terms of love. You've heard that song by Jamal? Abasooka bebakola batya bebanyonoona nalina omukwano ogutagambika. I know that, I can relate. So however, as time goes on, the person begins to reflect on the experiences in terms of their personal growth during and after the relationship, and they start to appreciate the lessons learned and strength gained from navigating this heartbreak. and the deep understanding of what they truly want to be, in terms of partnership with another person, in terms of life. Yeah. So in later time, perhaps they meet someone new, a genuine and even fulfilling connection develops. Yeah. So this new relationship becomes more healthy, becomes more compatible, and brings them profound happiness. They realize that if they had not experienced the pain in the earlier breakup, they might not have actually recognized the value of this new healthier love. Remember that song that was sung? What was the name of the song? Yeah, I forget. It's a Uganda song. Wanyamba Singate Yarigwe. I wouldn't have done ABCD. It's done by one of the musicians in this country, gifted musician. So in the context of love, the person accepted that the emotional loss of breakup, which initially felt devastating in terms of the loss, led to personal growth, to self-discovery, to eventual discovery of even of a more fulfilling and even genuine love in terms of the future. So by embracing the pain of the past, they found long-term win in terms of a more healthier and happier romantic relationship. I mean, the depression that I went through after a breakup gave me the opportunity now to thrive and begin working on myself as an individual, but also more importantly on my books. And that's the reason why I write. People ask me why you write. Sometimes you write out of pain and depression. They just don't understand. So the scenario, in terms of love, creates the ability of accepting, processing emotional losses, headaches, and even transformation, as I say. So they pave a way for future love in terms of aligning your love with the desires and values, ultimately resulting in more profound and even more lasting sense of happiness, as I say. Yeah. So in the context of death, the concept of accepting, for example, a loss or hardship, in terms of eventually finding a win, can be related to a grieving process. The way individuals cope with the passing of a loved one, for example. It's another situation. I'm going to play out a situation for you in terms of coping with the loss. Yeah. Now imagine, for example, a person who experiences the profound loss of a close family member, such as a parent. Yeah. And the death of the loved one brings immediate grief or sorrow and deep sense of loss in the early stages of mourning. Yeah. It may actually seem like there can be no win or positive outcome from such a devastating event. However, this person decides, for example, to embrace their grief and engage in the process of mourning. Yeah. They attend therapy, for example, and support groups in terms of helping them navigate their feelings of loss and anger and sadness. So over time, they actually begin to understand that grief is a natural and necessary part of the healing. Yeah, in spite of the loss. Yeah, ask me. We've gone through that after I lost, my parents. It happens, my friends. So, but as you continue to mourn and remember that their loved one, they also start to reflect on the importance of cherishing the moments with the family and friends while they were alive. But they also recognize the value in terms of relationships, in terms of needing to express love and appreciation for those they care about now. So I am more mindful. I'm I'm more sympathetic, to the people around me because of that experience. I now comprehend and understand. So in the midst of their grief journey, the person finds a sense, or what they call it, a sense of purpose in supporting others who are actually experiencing similar losses. They become involved in what they call charitable work, for example, helping families who have actually suffered bereavement. I think it was that not T.L. Osborne, but Dr. T.D. Jakes, who said, if I'm going through trouble or a scenario, I'd rather, want someone who has gone through a deeper problem, perhaps of similar sort, to talk to, because they would empathize, they would understand what I'm going through. So, as I said, in the initial loss of a loved one is an unquestionable hardship and emotional loss in terms of the person's willingness to embrace their grief and even turn it into a source of what compassion and support for others, as seen in the long run. So, they find meaning and purpose in helping others, navigating the difficult journey of grief, ultimately leading to a sense of fulfillment. Yeah? Sometimes you go through because you have not known. I think it was Mahatma Gandhi. He said you cannot judge someone until you've actually put on their shoes and walked in them. So empathizing and understanding, comprehending people's challenges is extremely important. As I said, the scenario illustrates that even in the most challenging context in terms of death and loss, individuals can find ways to transform their grief into a source of positive impact and personal growth, representing a form of winning in the face of adversity. And that's the component I'm trying to say. Winning by what? By losing. That's the component that I'm trying to say. Yeah? Now, let me paint another picture in terms of the context of what is familiar in the world today. Job loss. Yeah? Illustrating how to accept loss. Even when you feel that you had a job that rightly belonged to you. And that's the comprehension. Many people have a problem to deal with accepting loss. Accepting loss is extremely important. Whether job, whether anything. Now, in terms of what they call transformative job loss, for example, imagine an individual who has actually been working at the same company, yeah, for many years, and suddenly faces, job loss due to company downsizing, perhaps, and the job loss initially feels like a significant loss because of financial stability, routine, and even identity tied to their career. Ask me, the immediate aftermath of the job loss, this person may experience stress, uncertainty, a sense of disappointment, and they might actually struggle with feelings of inadequacy, fear about their future in terms of job prospects. Name it. However, and this is my point, my friends, as time passes, time is the best healer. As these individuals decide to view the job loss as an opportunity for personal growth, professional growth, they use their newfound free time to explore new interests, to update their skills, and even expand their network by attending workshops and even networking events. Had I not, for example, given up or had misfortunes in other careers that I may have done before in my life, I would not do what I'm doing today. I would not be what I am today. I think I am better than I was yesterday. So during this, for example, in terms of the scenario that I painted, you have to align yourself closely with values through persistence and determination to secure positions in terms of new fields, and even in terms of acceptance of even a lower salary or even different responsibilities. So over the year, as I said, this person excels in their new career and finds greater job satisfaction. Yeah, akugoba ya akulaga, that saying. In terms of achieving better work-life balance, they realize that if they had not actually experienced the initial job loss, they may not have actually remained stuck in terms of the things that they are doing now. Yeah. So in the context of job loss, as I said, the individual accepted the immediate loss of their previous job, which brought financial stability and familiarity. However, this loss ultimately, as I said, led to personal growth, career redirection, and discovery of a more fulfilling and aligned career path. So by embracing challenges and uncertainties in terms of this job loss, you are able to find a win in terms of a new career, in terms of new satisfaction, in terms of new personal fulfillment. I can relate. Again, ask me. So these scenarios demonstrate that even in the face of challenging, whether job loss or love loss, individuals can actually use our experiences as catalysts for positive change in terms of career reinvention and personal growth, ultimately leading to a more fulfilling personal life. Yeah? I'm just trying to paint as many pictures as possible because I know how tricky this topic can be. Winning by losing. I see many people struggling to win, to make statements, to assert themselves, even in relationships. And you waste money, we waste time. We've all gone there only to realize that it's too late. Let's talk about academic failure, for example. Yeah? In terms of academic resilience, the ability to have what they call academic resilience. It hits everyone. I know what it feels like. So imagine a student, for example, who experiences a series of academic failures during their college years, and they consistently struggle with their coursework, for example. They receive low grades or even face the possibility of academic probation or even dismissal from their university. These failures can be emotionally crushing and feel like, substantial loss in terms of educational progress and in terms of self-esteem. Yeah? Not so. So in the immediate aftermath of these academic setbacks, the student or individual may actually experience feelings of self-doubt, disappointment, and even shame. Ask me, I say. These might even question their abilities and their fear for their future prospects. Ask me, as I say. However, rather than giving up on their education entirely, the student chooses to view their academic failures as a valuable learning experience. Yeah? Yeah? They seek guidance from perhaps professors or teachers or lecturers or the academic supervisors or friends, and they develop what they call effective study strategies and even seek support from any underlying learning challenges. So with this renewed determination, they continue their education, retaking courses they previously struggled with and working tirelessly to improve their academic performance. And over time, their grades start to improve and they begin to excel in their work. I have a colleague of mine who I showed a report when we were in primary, and every time there was that line that the following are not admitted, and his name would appear. And now he's actually a doctorus, you know. And when I told him about that, he said, please bring that report card to me. I want to look at it and show to my students and say I transformed myself from an F student to an S student. And how was the change? Because when his parents died, that's when he said, wait a minute, I think I have to wake up. Ask me, some of us as well have gone through some of those challenges. We have got backgrounds in other areas in terms of, you know, academic journeys, until we learn to comprehend and challenge ourselves. And we were lucky that we rubbed shoulders with the best of the best. I was lucky to have attended some good schools like Soga College Mwiri, you know, where I found the likes of my esteemed brother, Dr. Nicholas, Lubogo. People who were summa cum laude, who were the best in the country at O level and even HSC. The likes of pharmacists like Mr. Kwasa. I could go on and mention it. All those guys, they rubbed on us, the Muyetis and the likes. They rubbed on us in terms of helping us to become better. And until we understood that we can also be good in our own area. Dr. King told us that you may not be the pine on top of a hill, be the shrub in the valley, but be the best side of the shrub on the side of the hill. And that's important. So in life, there is nothing like failure. Failure, like I think Oprah Winfrey said, it's a question of a badge on you and say, maybe take a much better route now, you know? So it's extremely important in terms of comprehending these things. Let me give you another scenario in terms of overcoming what they call public humiliation. I'm talking about winning by losing. You must accept loss. When you don't accept loss, you will not be able to change. When you don't accept that, listen, I have been cornered, you will not be able to change. Imagine a person who experiences public humiliation, for example, or shaming incident, perhaps due to a mistake they have actually made at work, or even a personal misjudgment that became widely known, This public humiliation is emotionally distressing. It feels like a profound loss of reputation and self-esteem. Again, I say, ask me, I have been there. The immediate aftermath of this humiliation, the person may feel intense shame, embarrassment, and a desire to withdraw from social interaction. They might even avoid colleagues, friends, and even family members, fearing judgment or ridicule. Not so. But, however, instead of succumbing to isolation and despair, this person chooses to confront their feelings of shame and humiliation head on. That's what we do here at Sugenes. Even when you hit us, you make outrageous statement on us, we take it head on. We comprehend, we learn, we appreciate from what they call constructive criticism. We seek help. We try to be better every day. We apologize where we make mistakes. We learn to empathize. We lift up our brothers. The scripture says, a broken reed thou shalt not break. The Bible says, a broken and contrite heart thou shalt not despise. We choose to do that. So over time, the person begins to rebuild their trust with those they have actually hurt or even disappointed. They take steps to make amends and demonstrate through their actions that they have learned from their errors in terms of thorough self-reflection, personal growth. They develop resiliency and a deep understanding of themselves. So even as years pass by, the person not only recovers from the initial humiliation, but also becomes a source of inspiration for others. They share their story, for example, of growth in terms of redemption. They offer lessons in terms of resilience, in terms of forgiveness, by the way. He who forgives more, right? Not so. He who has been forgiven, not so. What's the scripture says? He who has what? He who has forgiven more should actually forgive. Remember the scripture of the guy who had been forgiven, and then he went and punished his colleagues. Yeah, the Lord was bitter with him. So sometimes we have that mandate, that ability to be able to, that we have to forgive more. We have to understand that even when we go through some of these challenges, maybe the Lord or whatever, God is teaching us the ability to forgive more, to comprehend. Yeah. So in the context of humiliation and shame, the individual accepts what they call the initial emotional turmoil and humiliation, which felt like, a significant loss of self-esteem and reputation. However, they use these feelings as a catalyst, as I say, for personal growth and redemption. So by confronting this shame and taking steps to make amends, they found a long-term win in the form of personal growth, in the form of resilience, in terms of opportunity to inspire and even support others facing similar challenges. You just don't know how it feels like when you're going through trouble, only to share with the person who's naive, especially the young ones. Yeah, the young ones, you feel you have all the answers. I have the same challenge with some of the people around me who are young, and they feel like we are maybe old-fashioned, archaic, and we should be thrown into the annals of history, not so. Forgetting that sometimes where we are is where they are coming, And so sometimes it takes time for people to comprehend and understand patience, to understand that maturity comes with age, with experience. Yeah, it's extremely important even as we go through things. Even in terms of bitterness, in terms of serious regret, I could give a scenario in terms of transforming bitterness and regret as a component, in terms of winning by losing, as I say, a Giffen paradox, and that's the argument that we're propounding today. Yeah? Imagine, for example, an individual who carries deep bitterness and regret from a past event or a decision that has actually had serious negative consequences. They made a choice that they harmed themselves or others. And the weight of that decision has actually haunted them for years. Not so. So this bitterness or regret feels like an enduring loss of peace of mind and even emotional well-being. I know that, and I know that some people go through that. So for a long time, this person lives with a heavy burden of self-blame, for example, or resentment. They might even isolate themselves from others, unable to forgive themselves of their actions, and even consumed by bitterness towards the world. Yeah, and if not careful, they can actually, drive themselves into certain areas that are terrible. So, but the point is, however, at a certain point in their lives, this person decides to confront their bitterness and regret. They recognize that these emotions are preventing them from finding happiness and moving forward. Yeah, and the word happiness is also very relative, because it can be, what is happiness? Yeah, but the point is here, they seek perhaps, to address their feelings of guilt or regret or bitterness, and through this process, they actually gain insight into the circumstances that led to their past, actions, and begin to understand the complex factors that are at play. And this is the component that I'm trying to drum left, right, and center. So the point is that with profound clarity, the person decides to take action and to make amends. And they reach out to those they have actually harmed. For example, they express sincere remorse, they seek forgiveness, they also engage in acts of kindness and compassion to others as a way of counteracting the bitterness they have actually had carried on for so long. I had an instance one time when my mother was alive, and it was very petty really, and she was very angry with me. I had to apologize the first time, and I thought that was okay, and went to campus, and my mother kept saying the same story to my colleagues, and my colleague, may his soul rest in peace, came to me and said, please take time and go back and apologize. I said, I did apologize. He said, go back and apologize the second time. Little did I know, but I accepted, and I went and apologized to my mother the second time. And she didn't say yes or no, but 2 weeks down the road she passed on. And when she passed on, I broke down in tears because I was crying left, right, and center, and I didn't know what to do, because what I was struggling with, I didn't know whether she had forgiven me. Yeah. And later, during the burial ceremony, a lady, a friend of hers, comes and tells me, by the way, your mother, one day before she died, she said, I have told my son I have forgiven him. And man, I broke down more in tears but with happiness, because I knew she had released me in peace. So even as we labor with some of the things that we go through, sometimes we have to learn to forgive. It's not easy. Ask me. As I said, sometimes, even now, I'm going through some challenge of how do I forgive a person I've loved too much, that the world affirms that you have overdone it. But as I said, I'm praying and believing God for grace, because what is grace? Unmerited favor. The Lord, the word of God says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Not so. So I would understand and comprehend what God and Christ went through in terms of forgiving, in terms of and in terms of creating another, what they call a tabula rasa, a starting point, a clean slate, to begin a good relationship with these particular individuals. Yeah, and to understand that maybe they were misled, or they're young and they don't comprehend certain things, and that maybe I could have done worse given their situation. How about aspects in terms of political defeat or in terms of resiliency? Yeah, imagine a dedicated political candidate who maybe runs for a significant public office. It happens in our country, such as what? MP, for example, or mayor, or whatever, LC5, and they campaign tirelessly and invest considerable resources, yeah, and even gather a passionate following. However, despite their best efforts and support in terms of their constituents, they face, a terrible defeat in terms of the election. This loss is emotionally disheartening. It feels like significant loss in terms of political aspirations and goals. Ask me. I one time campaigned for guild president at university, and I lost by 2 votes. So I'm told I was cheated. I know the pain. I know the pain that I go through. So the immediate aftermath of political defeat, the candidate may experience disappointment, frustration, and a sense of failure. They might even question their abilities and even their effectiveness in terms of their campaign strategy. Yeah? And sometimes the very people we trust most are the very people who actually let us down. Yeah? However, that's the point I want us to comprehend. Winning by losing. Rather than retreating from the political arena entirely, for example, this candidate chooses to, view their loss as an opportunity for growth and a chance in terms of continuing to serve their community in other ways. That's what I did as well. I did that at university, and later it reflected at LDC, where I became the guild president. So they remain active in terms of local active organization, advocating for causes, and then passionate about their issues, and then continue to engage with their constituents. So over time, they actually gain a deep understanding of the issues facing their community and broader political landscape. So they use their experience to develop innovative policy proposals and even build coalitions with their like-minded individuals and organizations. Yeah? And guess what? Years later, this candidate decides to run perhaps for a political office once again. Ask His Excellency Museveni. Not so. He failed one time. But now he's the man is going down the annals of history as probably being the longest serving president in the history of this country. At least from where we are standing. So again, this individual, armed with knowledge and experience, with a broader sense of support, their second campaign proves to be successful, and they actually, elected in their desired public office. So in the context of political loss, the candidate accepted the initial political defeat, which seemed like a significant loss in terms of political aspirations and goals. However, they used this setback as an opportunity for growth in terms of learning and continued civic engagement. So by embracing the lessons learned and persisting in their political pursuits, they found a long-term win in the form of successful political leadership and the ability to effect positive change in terms of their community. So even as you do these things, my friends, please comprehend that there is what they call winning by losing. Unless a seed falls to the ground, the scripture says, and dies, it will not sprout. Sometimes it's important for you to die, and I'm not saying die physically, but dying accepting that, okay, ground zero, let me start wisely. So the scenario, as I said, that I've been giving illustrate the face of individuals who use these experiences as a catalyst for personal growth, by accepting loss and continuing in terms of commitment, by the way, to doing what you do, is right. And that is a test. The ultimate measure, Dr. King told us, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in terms of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in terms of challenges and controversy. That is the litmus test. Yeah? Now, let me try to explain a little bit of winning by losing in the context of Schadenfreude. Remember Schadenfreude? In terms of emotional well-being, people who consistently, for example, experience Schadenfreude, what we mean by deriving pleasure from others' misfortunes, may find themselves caught in a cycle of negativity. So over time, this can actually erode their emotional well-being and lead to feelings of isolation and bitterness. So winning by losing in the context might actually involve recognizing the toll that Schadenfreude takes on one's own mental health and choosing empathy and compassion as a path to a greater emotional well-being. Please understand that. Number two, in terms of what they call interpersonal relationship, Schadenfreude can actually strain interpersonal relationship. Friends and colleagues may actually distance themselves from individuals who consistently, for example, take joy in others' failures. I know a guy who says, when I had issues, says, so winning by losing could actually mean, valuing relationships more than monetary satisfaction and choosing to support and uplift others, even in competitive or even challenging situations. So this approach can lead to stronger and even more meaningful connections. Not so. I'm telling you like my friends because I know what I'm going through, and I'm telling you these things do happen to me. And I know they happen to 1,000 other people. If you're arguing in terms of personal growth, choosing empathy, for example, over Schadenfreude allows for personal growth. Instead of revealing in others' downfalls, individuals can actually focus on their own self-improvement and development. By channeling energy into growth and positive endeavors, they can actually ultimately achieve greater success in terms of fulfillment, thus exemplifying what they call winning by what? By losing. Yeah? I'm going to argue another one for you in terms of what they call morality and even ethics. Now, ethical consideration may actually play a significant role as well. So winning by losing might actually involve recognizing the moral and ethical concerns associated with what? With deriving pleasure from other people's pain, and even making conscious choices to act in ways that align with one's values and principles. One time I told you that I had two friends of mine who almost caused me my death because of the negativity that was coming out of them. They never believed in me. Every time them, you are this, you are that, you are that. Be careful with such people. Negative, toxic relationship. How about community and society? At a broader level, fostering a culture in terms of empathy and support in a community or society can lead to collective winning by losing. So when individuals prioritize in terms of the well-being and success of others, it can actually contribute to a more harmonious and even prosperous society overall. So it's important, my friends, that winning by losing in the context of Schadenfreude involves recognizing the potential harms and negative consequences of deriving pleasure from others, people's misfortunes. Encouraging shift in terms of mindset towards empathy, towards personal growth, towards ethical behavior, ultimately leading to a more positive and meaningful outcome in terms of the individual and society as a whole. Yeah? And then I would like to niche it up with a phrase that we call, they make desert and call it peace. The phrase "they make desert and call it peace" is often attributed to a Roman historian, what was called Tacitus. Yeah, and in his work Agricola, Tacitus uses this phrase to criticize the Roman Empire's practice of conquering lands and subduing local population through military force, and then declaring that they have actually conquered the territory, and the so-called territory is at peace under the Roman control. In reality, the peace he describes is often one of oppression and subjugation, where the local inhabitants have actually been silenced through force. I don't want to lose you. How quickly is that? So this phrase has actually been used throughout history in terms of critiquing actions by, for example, governments or even powers that use military force to suppress opposition or over dissent, and then even label the resulting state of control as peace. Yeah. So it highlights the idea that true peace should actually be based on justice, freedom, and the well-being of all people, rather than the absence of resistance obtained through what? Through force. Vox populi, vox Vei. Not so. Solus populi, solus suprema. Remember that. The welfare of the people becomes supreme. So the concept behind the phrase underscores the importance of distinguishing between genuine peace in terms of appearance of peace that can actually mask underlying injustices or conflicts. And obviously it serves as a reminder to question and critically examine the claims of peace when achieved through oppressive means. And I'm still within our discussion, by the way. but I'm gonna bring in the blend all the three for you. Yeah. Now, the Latin phrase faciunt and descent translates that they create a desert. It's a part of a longer statement attributed, as I say, to that guy, the Roman historian Tacitus, in his work Agricola. The full sentence reads, Ufre trudeca repe facit non bullus imprema atque ubi solitudinem facit pacem appellant, which translates to ravage, to slaughter, to usurp under false titles. They call empire where they make desert, and they call it peace. Yeah. So in the context of Tacitus, in terms of their writing or his writing, this statement is a criticism of the Roman Empire's military conquest, as I say, in its treatment of conquered territories and peoples. So Tacitus is highlighting the hypocrisy of the Roman Empire's actions. The Romans would often engage in brutal military campaigns, causing destruction and the suffering of the entire process after subduing a region. And they would actually claim that that area has peace and have been established under the Roman rule. And this is very evident in terms of personal things, how we think we've made peace by making desolate, hurting our friends, denying them of certain things. But the consequences of this approach in Rome was actually significant, in the sense that it argued out the following issues: oppression. Conquered people often faced oppression, loss of autonomy, and tribute to their. So any resistance was actually brutally suppressed. And then the aspect of destruction. Military campaigns would actually lead to destruction of cities and even infrastructure in terms of the economies, leaving regions in ruins. Yeah. And then aspects in terms of cultural impact. Conquered territories actually and traditions were often suppressed or even assimilated into Roman culture, leading to loss of cultural diversity. Not so. And then resentment and unrest. This heavy-handed approach often led to resentment and resistance among conquered populations, resulting in ongoing unrest and even conflicts. Yeah. Again, I'm laying ground, and then later I'll net it up for you in terms of comprehending. So I would like you to understand these major components. So the phrase, as I say, they make desert and call it peace, or they make desolate and call it peace, serves as a cautionary reminder of the consequences of using force, to establish control, in terms of the need to call it peace, as we say, and in spite of the oppressive means that you are employing, it's important to highlight again the importance of genuine peace, based on justice, respect for rights, as well as individuals and communities, rather than illusion of peace obtained through violence and domination. This is something that again you must comprehend again. Now, in terms of personalizing the example that I gave, I'd like to argue the following. So that you understand where we're coming from. Sometimes we have what they call overbearing friendship or overbearing relationships, and many of you will relate with what I'm trying to say. Let's just imagine a person who has a close friend with whom they share a deep bond. Not so. However, over time, this individual becomes overly, controlling and demanding in the friendship, and they constantly insist on maybe having things their way, making all the decisions, and rarely considering their friends' opinions or even preferences. You see where you're coming from? You see how I'm relating it to where we're coming from? This definitely has consequences in terms of erosion of trust and friendship. So as the controlling friend, behavior persists, the trust and the mutual respect in this relationship begins to erode, and the other person may actually feel, stifled and unheard. Ask me. I had a guy who was overly controlling, and yet, anyways. Another is in terms of isolation and alienation. Feeling smoother, for example, by controlling friends, the other person may actually withdraw and seek independence, and even if it means distancing themselves from the friendship, that's another consequence as well. And then in terms of resentment, for example, in terms of the strained relationship, resentment builds over time due to perhaps the overbearing behavior, and the friend becomes strained with both individuals feeling increasingly unhappy. Yeah. And then in terms of loss of emotional connection, for example, the controlling friend may actually feel that they're actually winning by maintaining dominance in the friendship, but in reality, they are losing the emotional connection and trust that once, made the friendship meaningful. This is very, very common, by the way, in relationships, where all of a sudden you wake up one morning and the wife you've been with walks away. And you're saying, I did nothing. I even bought her, flowers yesterday. But because of this build-up, she actually left 6 months or perhaps a year ago without you knowing. She was with you, but not for you. So this controlling friendship may think they are winning by exerting control and getting their way in this relationship, but the consequences can be fatal in terms of long-term losses. Yeah, it has manifestation in terms of what they call erosion of trust and friendship. The controlling behavior actually erodes trust and undermines the friendship foundation. Yeah, there are consequences in terms of isolation and alienation. The other person may actually seek independence and distance themselves from friendship, leading to isolation. Ask me again. I had a dear friend of mine who went with school, ate on the same plate, but things happen. Resentment and strain, for example, is another component. Resentment builds and the friendship becomes strained in terms of unfulfilling for both the parties. Yeah? And then, so as I said, the important thing here to comprehend is that even as we argue winning by losing, which is a very, very important subject, you will not hear these things being told of you by many people, by the way, because it takes time to think over them, to comprehend over them, to relate to them. And I know that each one of you individually has got these paradoxes, Giffen paradox running within you. And whether it is parental, whether it's marriage relationships, whether it's job related, call it, all the things go through us inside that. And I told you about Schadenfreude and then the components that have to do where people take appeasement or happiness in someone else's failure. All the things, when you put them together, you have to be extremely careful because they may lead you to destruction if you don't learn how to handle them well. And then the component of workplace micromanagement, for example. Imagine an individual, for example, who is a manager at a company, and this manager believes that strict micromanagement of their employees is actually key to achieving high productivity in terms of maintaining order in terms of the workplace. And they closely monitor every task, provide constant feedback, and even, rarely allow employees any autonomy. I would understand if you are the guy paying the money, but then I would also not understand if you are overly controlling just for the sake of it, because it leads to loss of employer trust, morale. Over time, the employees working under you as the manager begin to feel suffocated or untrusted. Their morale declines and they will become, disengaged from their work due to lack of autonomy and trust. And then there's a component of also that decreased innovation and initiative. We just fold our hands and say, can in the boss are you get it? Let me wait for the guy to suggest. After all, you did not suggest. You did not tell me to do that, so I also kept quiet. Decreased innovation. The constant micromanagement stifles creativity among employees, and you become focused on following rigid instructions rather than thinking critically or even proposing innovative solutions. I know I can relate. I know of a lady who was working at a certain place who reached a level when they were in the meeting and the boss said, what suggestion do you have? Because she knew this girl was over control and said, you have said it all. How about aspects in terms of high employee turnover, frustrated by oppressive work environment, employees start leaving the company in search of more supportive and even empowering workplaces. High turnover rates are actually consequences of managers' micromanagement. So managers, be careful even as we do these things. How about in terms of declining productivity? Paradoxically, the manager's strict control and micromanagement lead to decreasing productivity among the team. So employees may resist the manager's oversight, leading to inefficiencies and even reduced output. So we have to blend a balance, and that's the thing. So the manager believes I am winning, I'm closely managing my team, and it's going to lead to productivity and control. However, it leads to bad experiences and substantive losses. in terms of loss of trust, as I said, in terms of employee engagement, the manager loses the trust and engagement of their team, resulting into disengaged and even demoralized workforce. Yeah, and then obviously, as again, it has an impact on the employee turnover in terms of recruitment and costs. Yeah, high turnover rates could lead to increased recruitment and training costs as experienced employees leave and new ones must actually be hired or even to be put on board for that purpose. There can be a decline in terms of innovation, as I said, and creativity. Yeah, in terms of the manager's micromanagement, staff was innovation and the creativity among others. Yet some of these eureka moments may come from uncelebrated individuals, So we have to learn to comprehend ideas from other people, not to muzzle them and keep saying no, for you cannot say anything. It has negative impact on them, but also on you. Yeah, so it's important for you to comprehend that, even as we win, we have to be respectful in terms of that loss. And that's the major aspect I'm trying to say here. Winning by losing as a given paradox. Understanding that it's important. Sometimes the dynamics of given paradox do not necessarily mean strict control, because this obviously may result in rebellion and adverse outcomes. Yeah, and if I'm to personalize by giving more personalized examples in terms of the context, for example, a very particular thing that we all go through is, for example, in the context of love relationships, where both individuals employ controlling behaviors, yeah, and how this can actually lead to unintended losses on both ends. Yeah, I'll give an example. Controlling love relationship is another dilemma, another complex of its own. Yeah, imagine, for example, in a romantic relationship between two individuals called, say, Alice and Bob, as an example. And over time, both Alice and Bob begin to exhibit controlling behaviors within the relationship. And they each have their reasons for, wanting to maintain control and ensure their partner's, commitment. Yeah, and what are the effects of this? The effect will be, number one, erosion of trust. As both, for example, Alice and Bob become increasingly controlling, trust between them begins to erode. They may actually constantly question each other's actions and motives, leading to insecurity and doubt. And that's substantially a very, very big effect. Yeah? And then another effect could be in terms of what they call emotional distress. Yeah? The relationship becomes emotionally distressing for both Alice and Bob. And the need to control each other's actions and choices creates tension and anxiety rather than emotional intimacy and support that they desire. That's something, again, you must look out for, And then another component in terms of an offshoot could be loss of independence. Yeah, both individuals actually feel a loss of independence as their partners' controlling behaviors limit their freedom and autonomy. So they may actually resent these restrictions, ultimately because of that effect as well. Yeah, and then still under love relationship, you could argue in terms of what they call conflict and struggle. Yeah, the relationship, for example, becomes marked by conflict and power struggles with both Alice and Bob vying for control. So this constant tension and struggle, overshadow the love and the connection that they actually once shared. Yeah. So the point is that even as we engage, as I said, in this journey of life, and please remember that life is a journey and never a destination. And how I wish we comprehend that these things have to do with a daily struggle that we go through. So some of the topics that I'm choosing to share with you these days have everything to do with the fact that life is a journey and it's not a destination. And then the aspect of the erosion of trust and emotional connection, for example. As I said, the erosion of trust and emotional intimacy makes the relationship less fulfilling and even more distressing. Yeah, emotional distress and resentment is fatal in its own sense. So both individuals experience this emotional distress and even resentment due to the controlling behavior. Yeah, and that's something, again, we have to comprehend. And then also in terms of loss of independence and autonomy, the desire to control leads to a loss of individual independence and autonomy, which can actually be stifling in its own sense. So my point here is to learn to lose or to win by losing. And many of us go through this loss, and sometimes we become victims because we want to assert ourselves, forgetting that perhaps God or fate is creating an opportunity for us to redeem ourselves or rediscover ourselves. Yeah, it also causes conflict and strain. For example, the relationship is actually marked by constant conflict and power struggles, undermining the aspect of love and even the connection that they once shared. Yeah. So the example that I just shared in terms of this relationship is in terms of the controlling behavior in such a romantic relationship. Even when both individuals employ themselves, as I said, it can lead to unintended consequences, long-term losses for both parties. It mirrors with the dynamics of what they call the Giffen paradox, and where the pursuit in terms of the control and the dominance, they can actually result in rebellion and even undesirable outcomes. Okay, so listen, I don't know how many times I'm going to say this to everybody, but even to myself, that life is a journey and never a destination. And even me, I struggle daily with the things that I keep telling you about. And some of the writing that I keep writing are a reflection of the thoughts that go through my mind. I told you last time that I was writing a book called Dear God. And out of those, I'm making a collection of some of the writings, what you call it, the writings, the reflections that I've been going through, the pains, the struggles. And I would share at a certain time with my friends about some of the challenges that we go through, and so that we learn from one another in terms of walking this so-called big journey of life. Yeah. So in terms of some takeaways or points to consider in the context of strained relationship, perhaps one of the things we need to comprehend is to have open communication. I will speak again, like I spoke last time, about parenthood, that much as I speak to you, I also speak to myself. Open communication. In terms of engaging open and honest communication between, for example, parents and children, or lovers, or even anybody, can help employee, employer, can help identify underlying issues and even concerns in terms of feelings, in terms of certain things that need to be addressed. Sometimes you can be sincere, like my friend Ronnie Niyashima told me, you can be sincere, but you can be sincerely wrong. Yeah, and sometimes you have to look for what they call professional help. It's not very common in Africa. We especially in Uganda, we don't have so many of those centers for professional help. The so-called professionals really are either pastors or particular individuals, and sometimes they end up hurting us, and we have those issues anyway. But the aspect of emphasizing with each other is also try to understand each other's perspective and emotions. Parents, for example, you have your own challenges and fears. Children may have to navigate from their own issues as well. So empathy can bridge the gap. Although it's a difficult one, ask me. Very, very difficult, very paining, very, very hurting. And some of you kids don't know how you do that, but may God's grace prevail. And then setting boundaries. It's important that we have to set boundaries, definitive boundaries, and roles and expectations, so that we know we avoid those potential conflicts. Yeah, and then forgiving and healing is another one. That one, my friend, is a very big one. This one time I'm facing a challenge of forgiving even myself, although I've been a drum major in terms of asking people to forgive and forget. But man, it's a hard one. But now that's why I'm speaking to myself, much as I'm speaking to you about winning by losing. Yeah, the Giffen paradox. And then patience and time. Yeah, time heals all things, so we are told. Healing strained relationships often take time. Be patient and persistent in your own efforts to improve your relationship in terms of those small positive changes that can lead to significant improvement over time. So I pray in my soul and spirit that it is essential, as I say, to remember that strained relationships are not one-sided issues. Both parties can contribute to finding solutions and improving the connection. And the goal should always be to create a healthier and more supportive and more fulfilling relationship for everyone involved. And as a takeaway, in terms of a takeaway, I would like to emphasize the following, because this is super important in terms of a takeaway. As I draw to the conclusion of my dispensation today, because this is extremely personal, and how I wish this information can be passed on to my daughter, Zion Margaret Lubogo, or to any other person who really is going through hard things or challenges, it becomes clear that life often is a dance of paradoxes. And the given paradox reminds us that our own, economic choices can actually defy traditional expectations, just as they make desert and call it peace focuses on a question of nature in terms of control and the true meaning of peace. But listen, in the tapestry of our relationship, whether with our loved ones or with our colleagues, we try to explore, or I have tried to explore, how oppressive behaviors can lead to unintended losses and even alienation, echoing the old age adage that winning by losing might actually be the path to true victory. Please understand that winning by losing, humbling humility, might be the path to true victory. So as we reflect on these complex issues, please let us remember that our choices and actions carry consequences. Zion, Margaret, remember this. And the true success is not always found in the pursuit of dominance, but often in the embrace of empathy, collaboration, and understanding. For in the end, it is our capacity to navigate the paradoxes of life with grace, with humility, and a commitment to growth that allows us to find the true meaning of success and fulfillment. So my friends, I would like to thank you for joining on this exploration of paradoxes in our lives. And my prayer is that may we all continue to seek the balance between control and freedom, and between our own desires and the well-being of those around us. So in doing so, we create a world where the most profound victories are achieved by losing the need for dominance, and where empathy and understanding prevails as our guiding lights. Lastly, I'll tell you a story of a friend of mine, perhaps an associate now, not really a friend in the context of friend, because now I respect, as I said, learn to learn. I think it was Alvin Latter who said the literature of what the 21st century is not the one who cannot read and write, but one who cannot learn and relearn. I had an issue with his father when he was young, because he felt dejected and was not well looked after. And he used to go to this pastor and pray, "Pastor, I want to have the favor of my father." And the pastor often told him one thing: "Are you studying?" He said, "Yes." "Does he pay fees?" "Yes." "Do your best to study." Study. He said, "No, but I still want him to love me, to take care of me." This individual has never grown in his father's home, yet the father was extremely successful. But in spite of that, the young man worked very hard, concentrated on his academics. He's now a very, very well-known, reputable, highly placed individual, successful. And although his father used to not really mind so much about him, his father one time called him and told him, "These are my properties, take the opportunity to give them as you wish." And he said that is amazing, because he never ever thought that father would do that to that. But it's at this level, when the father discovered that this man had become responsible and had really worked on himself as an individual, that he was able to win the favor. They said, "Now I understand what the pastor told me. You do your part, and luck," they say luck is what? Opportunity plus preparation, not so. So this idea of luck will only come if you prepare yourself, put yourself in the right place and prepare. So even as we engage in this paradox of life, we should understand that yes, we have struggles, yes, we have amends to make, but if we keep doing our job, like Dr. King said, do your job so well that the dead, the living, and the unborn cannot do it any better. He said, if you fail your luck, to be a street sweeper, strip the streets like Michelangelo carved marble, or like Shakespeare wrote poetry, or like Beethoven composed music, or like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Do your job so well that the dead, the living, and the unborn cannot do it any better. And in doing so, listen, my friend, you will have conquered the world. God bless you. My name is Isaac Christopher Lubogo. Greetings from Sui Generis. I love you and wish you the very best. And I mean in the true sense of the word, I love you and desire the very best for you. Even you, my daughter, Zion Margaret Lubogo. God bless you for now. Thank you. I'll take my leave.